Hey guys, it's me Jenny and welcome to my D&D show thing. Basically it's going to be a segmented show every week where I talk about general D&D things. It's going to be D&D and Me, so what I've been doing with my D&D group and if I've been running any games or participating in any games, D&D and We as D&D and the wider internet, probably highlighting Critical Role every week. And any other D&D related things that I'm interested in that are part of the wider world, and D&D and Creativity, which is basically if I've been doing any art or have noticed any particular D&D related art or projects which particularly interest me. And also, as a side note, today is my 100th video this year. There is 100 days this year. This is my 100th video, so it's going to be an extra long episode because I'm going to really try very hard to get this uploaded. And also 100th video, 100th! It's very exciting. Yeah, I'm very happy right now. I've made it to 100 videos this year since January 1st to today. So, whoo! Without further ado, let's get started. But this week I'm going to talk about my Critical Role fan art. So the first piece I did was of Keyleth, the elven druid from Critical Role. She is my favourite character. She is the, happy rainbows, really tries very hard, druidic princess I just love her so much. Marie Sheree is possibly one of my favourite voice actors of all time and just seems like the best person ever.
To where all you're left with is the fun!
And I really love that character, and it was the first one that resonated with me more than any of the other characters. So the first bit of Critical Role art I did was of her. But it was after, I think it's the second episode, where she turns Trinket, the bear that belongs to another member of the cast, into a rat, so that she can hide him.
First I polymorph Trinket into a squirrel. You can do that? I can.
And herself turns into a bear, and I was like, wouldn't it be really cute if I could do a bit of fan art featuring Keyleth as the main character, but having turned all of the other characters into animals. And I did this piece of art way back when. And yeah, so I've got basically all of the animals represent different characters. So obviously Keyleth is human, followed by Pike, who's a mouse, and Scanlan, who's a mouse, because they're both the same species, because they're both halflings. Gnomish. We've got Tiberius, who is a lizard, who is unhappy about being a lizard. We've got Vax and Vex, who are twin kittens. Vax is sneaky, hiding behind Keyleth, which I drew this picture long before Vax Lilith, or however you pronounce that ship, happened, but I found it really appropriate that he's hiding behind her. It's really cute. And obviously we have got Vex, his twin sister, also a kitten. It is cute and adorable. And she is talking to Trinket the bear, who has been turned into a beaver. And who else? I'm forgetting one person. Oh, Percy! Percy, who is a flying squirrel, because that was... Oh, and Grog, who is a pug, because that just made me happy. Yeah, so that's my first piece of D&D art. I will probably talk about the other ones by and by, and yeah, that's my first D&D and Creativity segment. Thank you for watching, and on to the next part. I have literally just got home from D&D this minute. I'm a bit out of breath because I'm back home in the dark and the cold. And it was my first time DMing! And some of that excitement is the glass of wine I had to get me through it. It was only half session. The previous DM had an hour or so of his own time just to finish up his last plot lines, and then I took over, and the feedback was really nice. Basically, the plot of my little session and a half, 1.5 shot as it were, is that the characters from the continuous campaign that we're running suddenly get hit by this ice cloud of cold mist, and it is an angelic being, aka a diva, from the D&D lore, who has like ankle length silver hair, who tells them that there's an opaline the opaline stone, which is their like protective gem, has been stolen and taken to the ice plane, and they don't know where it is, and they can't exist in the ice plane, so they need to transport heroes to find it for them. And if they don't find the opaline gem stone within 24 hours, everyone in their population, thousands and thousands of entities, will die. So that helps because it's a one-shot, and my group has a real habit, particularly 1 or 2 players, of doing really long rituals and chatting and getting distracted. So then like they got the chance to do 3 questions, just because I wanted to keep it snappy. They didn't really ask any good questions, to be honest, which is fine because I didn't really have any good specific answers from the perspective of the diva. And then the mist fades and they're in the ice plane, so it's got like I envisioned it as like a purple lilac sky and like just a flat crevassy ice snow zone. I think I'm gonna have actual like snow in the beginning of next game. It's gonna be like crystal ice forms but no clouds, just floaty slow motion ice crystals falling from the sky, but like floating around like kind of half mist, half snow type things, but magical. And anyway, they turn up in this ice plane and then they have to make their way down the mountain, and they've got 2 choices. And originally I was going to have one choice which was going to be either a skill check to go climbing, or was going to be a zigzag trek past some small critters who were going to be ice meepits. But then what happened is they split the party, and one group went straight down the mountain, and one person was like, I have disadvantage on dex saves because I'm cold, because he failed his constitution check, so he just went down the long way. So at that point I just allowed the guys to have a short rest instead of having him take on an encounter on his own, because that would have been mean. So originally it was going to be a magical item if they went down the difficult to pass skill check climbing route, and a chest full of treasure if they took on the creatures. But as they completely bypassed the creatures and I took them out because I didn't want to mess with the timings and have a player fight ice meepits on his own, I completely cut that plot. And cold breath, still getting my breath back after biking home. And the guys that went down the mountain, they found the magical item because one of them has a pseudo dragon who has really high perception, and she found a ring of mind protection, which is perfect because our dragonborn is a telepathic warlock. So that works for him. He can like block out his mind from his deity if his deity is not so pleasant. And then because at that point they weren't really doing anything, I had them attacked by 6 ice meepits. It was originally going to be 3 ice meepits, but then right at the end of the previous DM's session, he decided to give everyone magical items and level them up. And so I was like, okay, 6 ice meepits it is. And I put them all like as they were travelling down a quite tight crevasse. So it was only like a 5-foot radius crevasse, and they were all quite a tight group. They didn't say like one of them was scouting ahead or anything. So then it was like 6 ice meepits in a crowd of 5 players, all in the course of a 5-foot radius, and ice meepits explode in a 5-foot radius when they die. So yeah, it was actually really good. I actually challenged the players. One of them got below 0. I was kind because at one point the wizard decided to cast flaming hands on 3 ice meepits at once. And I didn't roll for all 3 ice meepits. I only rolled for the equivalent of 1 ice meepit exploding, because if I'd rolled for 3 ice meepits exploding all at the same time, plus the fire damage, because he was casting flaming hands in a 5-foot radius with all of his companions. So basically, I could have been really, really mean and rolled for ice damage and slashing damage and fire damage for everyone, because most people failed their dex saves, but I only rolled for 1 ice meepit explosion. But yeah, it was really, really fun. Lots of good feedback. They liked that I was having a time thing. And I've got a really clear-cut idea for how I want to do the next session. And yeah, all I have to do is work out XP and what gold they found. And yeah, it was really, really fun. It was my first ever DM. I made the mistake of, because we were in the pub, I always eat in the pub and then I have a cup of tea. And I was dehydrated, so I had a Coke, and then I had a large glass of wine. So I got halfway through the meepit battle of these 6 guys plus 6 meepit monsters and 6 5 characters juggling, and I was like, I really need to run away for a moment and visit the ladies. But I didn't. I carried on, was focused, and it was all awesome. And I'm really excited for next week because I've got a really interesting path to follow. Of course, my character, the PCs are kind of very good at breaking my story, but so far I've actually managed to be pretty fixed to my story. As I said, it was very flexible from the get-go, and I'm really excited to see what the next session is. Anyway. And finally, for D&D and We, I've just woken up. All 3 videos were filmed on 3 different days at 3 different times. I've just woken up from watching Critical Role last night, and I'm going to have a little couple of thoughts about that. So first of all, one of the things that I really love, and I haven't been able to experience in real life, is the commitment to long-term NPCs, and the way that long-term characters can relate to long-term NPCs. It's one of those things that the group that I'm part of do a seasonal thing, so it's a maximum of about 3 months, if that, 2-3 months per campaign. There's one DM who does just Dungeons and Dragons, and he's doing a long-running campaign, so he resubmits the campaign every season so he can then carry on playing, but it's not going to go over the course of more than a year. So you don't have that sort of long-term investment in the NPCs, in the PCs that you do from Critical Role. And so with Critical Role, last episode you had like minor characters from 3 years ago who have come back into the character pool, and the reaction that you get from the PCs when you have that memory and that recognition is amazing. Particularly like the way Keyleth reacted to the little child who was part of the group of children where she lost the child that she was trying to save. The way that she reacts to that child and the way that Vax reacts to the child is very telling of their history and the way that they dealt with the original child kidnapping plotline that happened 3 years ago in terms of their actual real lives as well as their characters' lives. And the way that they react to Torak, the map maker, who is like, it is a comedy moment, but it's also incredibly depressing because even though he's only had 1 scene previously, you're still like, oh, poor map maker. Like, I'll be very interested to see where it goes from this point. Also, I'm gonna put, I didn't say spoiler alert, so there will be a big flashy spoiler alert before all this, because this is spoiler alert for episode 49, so sorry about that. Yeah, I really love the way that they handle NPCs. Matt Mercer is a master of multiple voices. One of the things I think would be really interesting to happen in the future with Torak, or however you pronounce his name, the map maker, he is a seeker of knowledge, he is a spreader of knowledge, he makes maps and he communicates them. He's relatively brave, but he is more of an intellectual. And I'd be really interested to see if they find the Sphinx, who is a follower of Ioun, whether or not those 2 characters, if they do come into contact with each other, can kind of hit it off, because, you know, the whole thing about Ioun is shared knowledge and communication of knowledge, the opposite to Vecna. So I think it'd be really interesting to see how this character, who is an intellectual, who is a venturer of knowledge and a pursuer of knowledge and a spreader of knowledge, reacts to this creature who is, again, the same entity for the same deity. I don't think Torak is particularly religious, but I think that whole mentality is something that could appeal to his character. So if he manages to make it to the Osisa's partner, I think that would be really, really interesting. Yeah, and that's pretty much my thoughts on this episode. It was lovely. Oh, I love Ashley. I missed her so much. I like that everyone's getting their kind of plot points. So we spent a lot of time on Percy. We spent a lot of time on Keyleth, and we spent a reasonable time with some time with a lot of the other characters. It's really nice to see particularly Pike and Grog as a unit coming together, because of all of the families, Pike's life is relatively functional, other than her death. Well, Grog is obviously a very non-functional family unit, and those 2 characters working together and experimenting with their history and how it's playing into their modern world is really very interesting, and very exciting. So it's very nice to see Ashley back. It's wonderful to see Pike, and yeah, it's just generally a good time. I really enjoyed this show. Like there's always a couple of scenes where you're crying with laughter, and this episode was no exception. So, thank you for watching. Sorry for not giving a verbal spoiler alert before I started. And yeah, happy 100th video! Woo! Thank you for watching. I'm tired, I need a cup of tea, I need to do things today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys all next week for another episode of D&D show thing. Bob doodly what's it. Yeah, bye guys.